So today I'm going to be talking about another alternate timeline, this time regarding the Spanish Civil War. Now, my question is, what if the Spanish Civil War never happened? And not to spice it up, but to give it another focus, I am not going to talk about how Spain would be. I am going to focus more on Europe and how that changed things. So, like always, a bit of background on the actual Spanish Civil War. Well, in terms of the Europe's playing field, because it's the focus of the video, it served a really important purpose. Fascists fought communists, not communists, but and it was in terms of Spain, it was nationalists versus republicans, right? And the nationalists were backed by fascist Italy, fascist Germany, and of course the nationalists. Republicans, they were backed by the USSR, international brigades, proper Republicans like actual Spanish Republicans, and other volunteers. Now, the reason why this war is so important is because it served like a, how do I put this? World War II light version. You know how there's an app store that's like the light version and then the pro version? And the light one is free and the pro you have to pay. Well, it's kind of like that, kind of. So, Spanish Civil War was kind of the playing ground, the practice ground, the what would happen if we use these plans? What would happen if something happens? Or do we work well together? And then they saw things that went well and put them into practice, and then actually used them, put them into practice in the Second World War. What do I mean by this? So in the Spanish Civil War, Germany started using I think it was the Conner Legion and then the Luftwaffe. They did an alliance with fascist Italy, showing how the Axis powers could work well together. They faced the USSR, and they saw how people fought against communism and how, well, nationalist ideas and traditional ideas such as Hitler's and Franco's and Mussolini's, they were popular in how, well, those people believed these ideas could spread even further. So let's put it in terms of Hitler. Hitler, he knew that he could develop these weapons, these tactics, and the nationalists ended up winning. So if they could win this, they could amplify it, times it by 1,000, and win a global war. So, I mean, they saw the Common Legion work, they saw these alliances work, so why shouldn't they do them? In the USSR, they saw support communism had and danger Germany posed. So it kind of warned them. And, give them time to develop weapons, tactics, alliances, same thing. But it was more important for Germany, I'd say. And Italy, but mainly Germany. So, let's just say the Spanish Civil War never happens. But Hitler still wants to dominate Europe. So let's just, for the sake of argument, fast forward to September 1939 and the invasion of Poland. Now Hitler has, by this point, had some practice in terms of the Austrian Anschluss, Czechoslovakia, Sudetenland. He kind of knows how to take over these countries, but he did these peacefully. So is it really valid? Like, is that actual practice? Is it preparing him for a war? But at the same time, the USSR hasn't had any practice. They know, and Stalin knows that Hitler is danger. He knows he's coming for USSR, so he needs to make an alliance. He knows this, but it's more common sense rather than knowing based on the war. It's a war, but he still needs to make an alliance, but he's still not sure how Germany plans on, actually building up to a war. Because Germany had supposedly been disarming until 1935 and then started rearming. And obviously, in the Spanish Civil War, they showcased these weapons, but they didn't showcase these weapons because there was no Spanish Civil War. So the world didn't have an idea of how Germany was. Because, like I said, all these pre-1939 Poland conquests, they were non-violent. Well, they didn't use guns. There were guns there, but there wasn't any conflict. So let's start with the war. Germany kind of has to test the Counter Legion, kind of has to test the Luftwaffe because they haven't done it yet. So they waste a lot of time and resources trying to perfect Luftwaffe and techniques and how to be more stealthy and how to be more efficient. And that's why the Battle for Britain, or Battle of Britain, or however you want to call it, doesn't happen right away. It happens in 1940 in actual history, but it doesn't happen right away because the German Air Force isn't ready. Italy, kind of the same, bit slower, I guess, because they don't have as much time to develop the weapons as, like I said, with the Civil War. They had time to, get feedback. So, you have to slow things down. But in terms of the Allies, because that's the Axis powers, Japan is not really important in this sense because they weren't at all involved in the Spanish Civil War. But in terms of the Allies, so let's start with the USSR. They still do the alliance, and they are still extremely wary about Hitler. But I want to say they were more cautious, by no means, but they still don't know the extent of Germany's, I said this before, of Germany's powers, so they would be kind of slower and less, slower. In terms of Operation Barbarossa, that would have gone a bit quicker for the Germans, I'd say. Again, I'm not a military historian, so I don't really know, but it would have gone a bit slower because, well, the USSR, while still completely running Germany, they would have been less prepared because they didn't know what Germany had for them. But again, Germany didn't have time to test the weapons and stuff, so that was that. Then in terms of Britain and France, well, I'd say France would have still been invaded, but just not in June 1940, I'd say later in the year. And Britain, well, they wouldn't have had the Battle of Britain, so they would have been stronger, I guess. And I'd say the war would have ended 1944 rather than 1945. Yeah, because the US would have still drawn in 1940 because Pearl Harbor was Japan, not Germany. So yeah. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, the consequence of the war, Germany would still have lost. But yeah. And then just for the sake of it, add Spain in there. Well, the Spanish War, the war had never happened. Well, Franco did send some troops to Germany, but nothing too significant. Well, Spain would have remained a republic. Possibly join the Allies. Possibly. I doubt it. Would have still been on the winning side. There would probably been attempts to invade it at some point by Germany because tactically you have the Atlantic, you have the Mediterranean, so it's a good place. Maybe the attempt to invade it, but Britain and France were right there and probably would have stopped it. But again, I am not entirely sure there because it didn't actually happen, so I can't really tell you based on facts. Yeah, that is pretty much it. This video, it's just me guessing what would have happened. Obviously I've done a bit of background research on the Second World War. Well, stuff really I know from my little history and then some for the reading, but this is what I'm guessing. And I always say this, but with alternate history, it's really hard because it didn't actually happen, so it's up to like your imagination, I guess. And it's like I said in my last video, regarding the alternate timelines, it's like a branch and then it branches off. So let's say a Spanish Civil War never happened, so there's a universe now that has a civil war and then one that hasn't. And then here you have the one where Germany wins the war and one where Germany doesn't win the war. And yeah, I mean, it's whoever wants to like voice their opinion, because it's not actual fact, it's literally opinion based on historical facts. But yeah. So it's a bit of a mess, this video, but hey. I always say, you have any other alternate history scenarios, please let me know. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you found it interesting. So yeah, bye.